What's going on, guys? Today we're doing a video talking about 20 things about Inuyasha that make no sense. An article by Jonathan H. Cantor on screenrant. So I saw this, I thought it would be a kind of fun topic for a video. Maybe we'll go through, see what he thinks doesn't make sense, see if I agree, or see if I might have a reason for it, and we'll see what happens as we go. If you enjoy this kind of video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, let me know if you have any articles I should check out. But with that being said, let's get into this. So I'm going to read the article and then we'll tell you what I think the entire way through. So Inuyasha was an amazing series that took viewers to a magical world of feudal Japan. Most of the series was perfect, but not everything made sense. Artist and writer Rumiko Takahashi has had a storied career with amazing hits including Ranma 1/2, Rinne, Maison Ikoku, Urusei Yatsura, and of course Inuyasha. Her abilities to weave an interesting story through the lives of more characters than the creator of The Simpsons could imagine have made her one of the most well-known and beloved creators of anime and manga throughout the planet. All of that, pretty true. We've also had series like Mao and Yashahime added to that list, which is kind of cool. While she is amazingly talented at creating characters, not everything about the world she creates gets translated perfectly when it comes time to animate them. Inuyasha's story was told over the course of 193 episodes across 2 series and 1 OVA and 4 feature-length films. With so many episodes, certain aspects of the story and some of the characters' traits are bound to lose some clarity. Something I do want to mention here is the canonness of the movies is up for debate, obviously the OVA as well. And we also have filler episodes to consider. It can't really be part of the world building that she set up in the manga because it's an anime-only filler episode. So that's kind of iffy as well, but she does have to okay all of those things, so there's some gray area. While most of the series was easy to follow and fun to watch, there were a few aspects of the story that didn't make much sense. Granted, if you put a magnifying glass up to any show about demons, magical artifacts, and time travel, you're bound to find a few flaws. Yeah, so I like that he's very, it's okay to have a couple mistakes, shit happens, everything has flaws, we're having fun. This seems like, I'm hoping he's a very unbiased writer, which seems to be the way we're looking at things. So that being said, there were a few things about Inuyasha that just don't make a lot of sense when you get right down to it. We found 20 that defy explanation and made more than a few fans scratch their heads in disbelief. This article covers aspects of the anime that were a little wonky without going into the manga. Okay, so we're focusing on the anime as itself, no manga. That's fine. With that said, we give you 20 things about Inuyasha that make no sense. Number 20, Kagome's family's disinterest in her safety. I mean, I don't even gotta read this section. Yeah, that's fair. When the series began, Kagome had just turned 15 years old and was living on her family's Shinto shrine, alongside her little brother, grandfather, and mother. She quickly found herself embroiled in the events of the series back in the feudal Japan, which seemed like a rather risky affair. While she would come and go as she pleased back and forth through the well, her mother and grandfather barely batted an eye. In any normal family, it's highly unlikely that a 15-year-old girl would have the freedom to go off and fight demons through a magical well in the past. However, her grandfather and mother showed little to no interest in her safety. They knew what she was doing and just let her do it. So what do I think about that? Obviously, yeah, there's on a base level, probably not great to let your daughter go to the feudal era and all that, but at the same time, if you're looking at it through there was a magic jewel inside of my daughter and this allowed her to travel to the past and now she's tied up in an event that can also affect the future. I might give a little bit of leeway. Obviously, you're going to be pretty panicked, but, at some point, you're like, yeah, my child is the chosen one, right? So, I don't know. There's some level of disbelief that has to be involved with adventure stories for at least family elements. So, but yeah, I get that one. That's fine. Number 19. Why can't Kagome transport people through the well? Because Kagome is not the catalyst for that. The jewel shards are. She typically can't go through the well herself unless she has the jewel, right? Inuyasha, this could be a fine argument for, I think. And I guess, if she had the jewel shards, whatever. But, yeah, I think anyone with the jewel shards or or anyone with Inuyasha should be able to. We've seen like Yura of the Hair go through the well, so I don't know. The series quickly establishes who and what could travel through the Bone Eater's well on Kagome's family grounds, but that list was limited. Kagome could make her way through the past, to the past and back, but that was mostly in terms of people. When it comes to inanimate objects, she could take whatever she liked. There was never a reasonable explanation given for why this was the case. Why could she transport things like her bicycle and homework, but not another person? While this was obviously a plot device meant to limit who and what could make their way through the well, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny without any explanation. The well should have worked to allow more people or demons to make their way through it, but that simply wasn't the case. Was there ever a time that Kagome tried to bring other people, though? I don't think this was ever actually tested, and on top of that, again, it wasn't Kagome, it was the Jewel Shards, so if Sota had the Jewel Shards, he probably would have been able to go to the past. Again, we saw people like Yura making their way through, so, or at least her hair. But yeah, 18. What happened to all the demons? That's a good one. My typical understanding, or my best guess at this point, is that someone's going to make a wish on the rainbow pearls, and that will get rid of the demons, but we'll see. When Kagome first traveled through the well, she found herself in a world very unlike the one she just left. The land was rife with magic and demons, which remained the setting for the series. She even teamed up with a half-demon and battled many throughout her time in feudal Japan. With so many demons just out and running about, it seems strange that there aren't any in modern-day demons in Japan. So what happened to them? On the surface, it seems Takahashi was meant to separate the time periods into two different worlds, and while that makes sense for storytelling, it doesn't make much logical sense. They didn't destroy all the demons in the past, so there really should be some demons in the 21st century. So I think going back into the series, it's pretty easy to jump to the idea that like they are separate worlds. However, I don't think that's how that actually ended up being. There's a lot of examples of things happening in the past which affect the future. So for example, we have Hojo's great-great-great-great-great-grandmother being named Kagome. We have the snow in one of the movies. There's like links to the past and the present. Obviously, Grandpa knows about the Shikon Jewel and other demonic artifacts. We have the Dream Piper being in the present world. So they're the same world, same timeline kind of thing. But yeah, I would assume that there was some kind of wish on the Rainbow Pearls. Not that this was even thought of back then, so there's no real reason given, and that's totally fine. Sudden disappearance of magic. Yeah, that's... I guess you could throw in like sacred abilities too. This isn't one that I see talked about too often, but same kind of thing. There's no real reason given, unfortunately. Similarly, magic seems to have lost its overall effectiveness and barely has a presence when it comes to the modern world. In the past, Miroku demonstrated a number of spiritual abilities with his spells, but those abilities seem to be only available to people in the past. In the present, Kagome's grandfather has various charms, but they don't deliver the same level of effectiveness as someone like Miroku in feudal Japan. There isn't an explanation given as to why magic no longer exists in the modern world, but it could be that people like Kagome's grandfather simply lack the skill or ability to properly use it. Whatever the reason, it seems that there should be magic available in the present as there was in the past. Yeah, I would probably chalk this up to a skill and ability thing. Maybe her grandpa just isn't very good at it. He hasn't really had much practice outside of, like, you know, whoever taught him, right? But yeah. How did Miroku immediately know how to ride a bike? That's like a big meme in the Inuyasha community, so that's good. This one may fall into the nitpicking category, but for anyone who's struggled to learn to ride a bike, it's a bit odd to someone that, like Miroku, hop onto one and ride it with little to no problems. While most people learn to ride as children, even adults find it difficult to learn and ride a bike if they skip their lessons in childhood. Knowing that, it doesn't make sense for a person who had been born and raised in the feudal era to be able to pick up a bicycle and ride it as if they were second nature. Granted, Miroku possesses many skills and abilities, but the fact he could ride a bike without any trouble doesn't make much sense when you think about it for more than a few seconds. I'm not sure I've ever had like an adult try and learn a bicycle in my life, so I'm not sure how difficult it would actually be for them, but I can't imagine it would be like terribly difficult. But yeah, that's, you know, that do be nitpicking, but it's fine. 15. Kagome never changed her clothes. I think Rumiko said it's just like, that's what she was most comfortable in, or she thought it was cute or something. Kagome was a 15-year-old junior high school student, and as we all know, we all knew this because she wore her uniform constantly. In some ways, this was a costume which identified the character, but it really doesn't make much sense. The uniform is hardly practical when it comes to traversing the dangers of feudal Japan while hunting down shards and demons. Why didn't she simply change it to something more practical? She had more than enough time, and she had plenty of opportunities to throw on some pants and clothes that made sense. But she rarely changed out of her uniform. Perhaps she liked wearing it, but whatever the reason, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to traipse around the feudal era in a short skirt. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Number 14, what happened to all the monsters? I am picking up a trend. Demons weren't the only creatures. They've had many monsters, yokai roam the landscape. Same thing, right? Okay, that's fine. 13, the Fox Demon exam was pointless. At one point in the series, we were introduced to the Fox Demon exam, but the whole event seemed rather pointless, and only served as a distraction or side story that probably could have been left out of the series altogether. This is true. The exam is introduced when Inuyasha and his team hole up at an inn without knowing that this is the site for the exam. Shippo ends up in a position where a good grade could be earned by getting revenge on Inuyasha, but there doesn't seem to be much point in the whole thing. Was the Fox Demon exam really necessary for getting promoted in order to grow more tails? Other than that, there didn't seem to be too much of a point to it, rather than it being a side story that the series could have done without. Yeah, it was kind of a lame episode, so, you know, it could have been skipped. I totally agree. Inuyasha and Sesshomaru's claws. Inuyasha and Sesshomaru's claw weapons are some of the most devastating and useful, but they don't make a lot of sense. When you think about it, these guys are dog demons, which means their claws should be similar to those of dogs. Dogs don't usually use their claws as weapons. Their claws are used to help them dig and to maintain traction when running on various surfaces. But they are also not retractable like a cat's, which begs the question, why were they used as if they were a cat's claws? Granted, they are demons and have abilities a dog wouldn't normally possess, but it seems strange that their natural claw weapons were much more cat-like than dog-like, given they were dog demons. Bro, who cares? That is... I don't know, man. The fucking demons. It's fine. Relax. That one's, like, real nitpicky. That's, like... So far, that's the worst one. 11. The long wait between reincarnations. Early in the series, it's established that Kagome is the reincarnation of Kikyo, which is why she has the ability to travel through the Bone Eater's well and possess the Shikon Jewel within her body. This is one of those aspects in the series that is easily established, but it does beg the question, why did such a long period of time pass between reincarnations? Kikyo passed away during the feudal era and likely would have been reincarnated soon after her passing, but hundreds of years passed before Kagome was born. This is never really explained in the series, and there was no indication that others were born in the meantime. Given the long period of time that passes between reincarnations, it does make it seem like there was something missing here. So, like, that's all fine, but it hinges entirely on this sentence. Likely would have been reincarnated soon after her passing. Why? Based on what? Like, that's just opinion, I guess, at best. I don't know. We started strong in this video. Number 10. Why didn't Kagome leave the shards at home? Kagome and Inuyasha are the only people who have the ability to travel through the Bone Eater's well from the present and past. This was something of a strategic advantage nobody else seemed to think of throughout the entire series, other than Yura in episode 3. As the group recovered shards, they were kept in the feudal era. Why didn't she simply take them to the present and keep them safe somewhere? Presumably the shards would have been safe in the present without the threat of some demon stumbling upon them and taking them for themselves. This not only doesn't make sense, but it also seems like a missed opportunity. Kagome and Inuyasha could have banked on the security of the 21st century and ensured the shards' safety, but nobody seemed to have that idea, which doesn't make sense at all. Alright, so Yura in episode 3 was able to send her hair through the well because she had a jewel shard. We have demons in the modern day era, like the Soul Piper. The No Mask was able to use a jewel shard to come to life. There are plenty of things in the modern era that could be affected by jewel shards, or any demon who wanted to use the well and has a jewel shard could go there himself, which would put her family in danger because there's no Inuyasha there to protect them all the time, right? So yeah, that's, you know, in theory, that's great, but I don't think it really holds up to the reality of the show. Number 9, Sesshomaru's sword. Another nitpicking piece has to do with Sesshomaru's sword, which he somehow kept but got rid of whenever he transformed. Technically, the sword was instrumental in his transformation, but that doesn't explain what happens when he transforms from a human into his full demonic form. What do you mean the sword was instrumental in his transformation? It wasn't. Does the sword get absorbed into his new body, or simply disappear only to reappear when he returns to a human form? It seems like this is one of those things the viewers accept because there's no explanation given, but it doesn't make sense when you think about it for more than a minute or two. Magical swords have to go somewhere when the person holding them transforms into a giant dog monster. But that doesn't mean the series had to show what happened to them. I mean, yeah, that's fine. He's not wrong. The sword does just disappear. I don't know what he means by sword was instrumental to the transformation, because it wasn't. 8. Kokome and Her Bike. This one might be more in the nitpicking category. I am really picking up some trends here. But how did Kokome get her bike up and down from the well without some sort of rope pulley system helping her out? This is one of those things that doesn't make any sense when you think about it more than a second, because we all know bikes aren't something you can simply pick up and move easily. If only she had some kind of, I don't know, half demon to help her lift that up. That'd be super helpful here, I think. Granted, they don't weigh a lot, but that doesn't mean she was able to easily move in and out of the well in the way she is depicted in the series. This just seems like lazy writing when you get down to it, but there's no way she could have carried that bike easily through the well and every time she needed it. I guess. How did Kokome climb out of the well? Pretty difficult thing to do, but I don't know. Events in the past have no effect on the present or future. Again, Hojo's great-great-great-great-grandmother, the weather changing because of the first movie, I think, so the weather changing because of Minomaru. There's a couple examples. Time travel is one of those storytelling tropes that often raises more questions than it answers. Paradoxes form all the time based on events carried out in the past. Inuyasha is no different. Seeing as the majority of the series takes place in feudal Japan, Kogome's actions in the past should have a huge impact on her present. But every time she returns to her time, nothing has changed. This doesn't add up when you consider all the events she has taken part in. How has she not affected her timeline and made anything different? These questions are the danger of time travel in storytelling, but they're also part of the fun. Her actions in the past could have resulted in the present as she knows it, but there was never an explanation given, so who knows? I think in this case this is the explanation, where like time works on a predestined thing, so Kokome was always meant to go back in time, which caused the era that she's in right now, so it's like a cyclical thing. But yeah, that time travel can be messy. Koga in the final chapter. Like most anime, Inuyasha closed out with a pretty good explanation of what happened to the main characters in the series. Unfortunately, one character was left out without much said as to what happened to him. Koga was notably absent when the series picked up 3 years after in the events of the final chapter. Where was Koga and what happened to him? We didn't get to see. It seems plausible that he returned to his pack, but for a character who spent so long chasing after Naraku, it seems like there was something missing when it came to his story's conclusion. There was a passing comment by Kokome that he might have married Ayame, but that's all that was said about what happened to him. Well, he did marry Ayame, and why is there something missing? He wanted revenge on Naraku because he slaughtered a bunch of his pack. Naraku died. Now he can go back to his pack. That's fine. I don't like the nitpicking ones. How did the shards spread so far? It's a magic jewel. When the series began, the Shikon jewel was scattered into pieces while it was high in the sky thanks to a crow demon. When it shattered, its pieces flew far and wide across all of Japan, which established a setting for the series. The only problem that didn't make sense was why the shards fell so far from each other. Granted, it's all about magic here, but reasonably, The shards should have dropped in a small area beneath where the jewel shattered. It's one of those aspects of the series that only works if you don't think about it much, or know anything about physics or gravity. Of course, the series would have been over and done with if all the characters had to do was scour a small area to locate the shards. I mean, again, if you're giving admission to magic being part of the world, there's some things you just gotta roll with. There's like a layer of disbelief that you have to go into a series with when it has supernatural elements. Sango's costume-changing abilities. While we get that this is an anime and there are aspects of the series that shouldn't make sense, there are a few things about Sango that just don't work when scrutinized. The biggest flaw that drew our attention was Sango's Supergirl level of costume-changing ability that made it seem as if her wardrobe was magically activated. Sango demonstrated an ability to change into her Demon Slayer outfit in a manner that makes it seem impossible. She also, for some reason, whipped her hair into a ponytail to complete the ensemble, which was certainly impressive but not necessary. How did she change so quickly throughout the series, and why was it presented in such a way? There was no explanation for it. Well, the ponytail just, makes it easier to fight because the hair's not in your face, right? I would assume. And then costume changing fast? Sure, I guess. It's like the complaints like this, and I'll get comments like this all the time too, why doesn't this thing that doesn't matter, why did they do that? And it's like, bro, it doesn't matter. Kokome should have been expelled. When the series began, Kokome was beginning her career as a junior high school student. When the series came to an end, she graduated from high school, but that doesn't seem possible when you think about all the time she missed in school. In reality, someone who missed so much school should have been expelled long ago. Nobody seemed to question why she was out of school so often, claiming to be sick. All anyone at school cared was her boyfriend, whom her friends incessantly bugged her about, but nobody seemed to care about all the work she had missed. When you think about it, Kokome is lucky that she was able to complete her education at all, given how much of it she actually missed. It's just one of those things that defies reason. So yeah, obviously, but I think that this is also a comedy element of the series. And if we're scrutinizing comedic elements, I don't know, again, doesn't matter. She went back and she's living in the past now, so it doesn't matter if she has a diploma or not. Shikon Jules Power. The series quickly establishes that shards of the Shikon Jewel could be used by demons to greatly increase their power. It appeared that a single shard could empower a demon as much as the entire jewel in its completed state, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would a small sliver of the Shikon Jewel increase the power of a demon in a comparable way to those who had the whole jewel? This was never established as something that was going on, but it certainly seemed that way. Each demon the group found who was empowered by a jewel shard appeared to be fully powered and was a serious threat to anybody they came across. It simply doesn't make sense that a small sliver of the jewel would work to empower a demon in the same way the entire jewel did. Okay, so which demons did we see actually use the Shikon Jewel shards against the Shikon Jewel? We saw plenty of people actually use the Shikon Jewel shards. For example, Hiten and Monten. We saw even humans like Bonkotsu or specters like Bonkotsu using it. So all the time we've seen just basic power-ups, they become stronger. But when a demon uses the full jewel shard, they transform. It's not just a power boost, something else happens to them. We saw Mistress Centipede burst from her skin and become much stronger, much faster, just not stronger than Inuyasha, I guess. We saw Shibugarasu becoming many times bigger than himself as he's flying away with the Shikon Jewel. I think that's a pretty significant jump that one jewel shard probably wouldn't have done. And we saw Niraku using the full jewel, again, bursting from his skin, becoming that red, purple, disgusting spider thing. And those are all pretty big transformations on top of power boosts, which I think give them more abilities and just generally make them stronger all around. Whereas a single shard or a few shards typically don't do that. The only example I can think of where shards did do that was with, Royakan. And, yeah, but, typically that's not the case, right? And number 1, Inuyasha's evil side. Evil's a strong word for that. Inuyasha spent a lot of time suppressing his more evil traits, but he required his sword to truly keep it at bay. This begs the question, why didn't he come to the evil side a long period before he was able to get a hold of his sword? The sword was used to seal his demon blood and keep his evil side at bay, but it had to be in his possession after it was broken to keep his seal active. So because of this, it should also have been much harder for him to keep the evil aspect of himself suppressed before he was able to get the hold of the sword. This was somewhat explained in the series, but it didn't make a lot of sense looking back. Tessaiga was being kept in the Black Pearl, which was inside of Inuyasha's eye. He's housing the sword he was literally housing the sword prior to it being removed from him, and that's why we didn't see him transforming until after the sword was removed from within his eye. That's so tired of that one. So I don't know. There were a couple in here that were pretty solid, like where did the demons go and all that. But things like Sango changing clothes too quickly or the Shikon jewel scattering as far as it did, that's just like the layer of disbelief you need to have going into an anime, right? Like, especially one focusing on demons and magic. Sometimes things are going to happen like that. They don't need to always fit into the world of physics. Relax. And then other aspects like Inuyasha's evil side, or like, those are just not understanding the format of the show or understanding content in the show. So yeah. But yeah, overall the list was okay. Definitely could have been like a list of 5 things that didn't make sense, or maybe 10, but whatever. Let me know what you guys think of this list or of my description of it. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comments down below as well. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. And as always, a big thank you goes out to our Patreon, with our Dai Yokai, Jacob Wiley and Iffy Babes, our Yokai, Amelia Hellman, Anil Cruz, Janice Not Janice, and Lucifina Akuma, and our Hanyo, Anthony Hogan, Brittany K, Eli Kanem, Kiwi Dog, Lovely Kiwi, Michael Greco, Mochi Num Num, Nega Kitty, Samantha Olsen, Savage Camel, Simon Electric again, Sukineko, and Ziv. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, remember to stay excellent.